it has affected the person that I turn out to be. That's another thing that growing up in rural Congo left in me. Nobody ever knows Congo. You can never know Congo enough. What's up, family? My name is Felicity and welcome to Congo Talks 243. If this is your first time, I would encourage you to subscribe just so you're notified when I post new videos. And for those of you who have been here for a long time, welcome back. I'm so glad you're still here. Now, I always mention to you that I grew up in the outback parts of Congo, but today is a sit down. We're going to talk one-on-one on what that was like. To do this, I made two posts. I made one on Instagram and another one on YouTube to ask you guys, what did you want to know? So I will answer those questions, but I'm also just going to tell you guys what growing up in those parts of Congo or in rural Congo taught me. So first question, how big was this village? It was big enough to be a small town, but it wasn't developed enough to be considered urban. I don't know if that makes sense. Even the economy of the place was dependent on agriculture, so people going to the forests, like to their, what do you call it? Agricultural fields. I don't know if that makes sense. And farming and things like that. It was a big place. It wasn't like a small village where everybody knew everybody. There was a lot of diversity in that place. Even architecture, like the way that people built their houses differed. You know, there were mud houses, there were huts, there were brick houses and things like that. So the second question, someone asked, what village did I grow up in? Was it a posh village? The question, what village did I grow up in, actually came twice. With regards to the name of the village, I would like not to disclose that name because my family lives there and I signed up to be a YouTuber. They didn't. So I would like to respect their privacy in that way. And the place is not so big for people not to really meet people. So I would like not to disclose the name of that place. But was this place a posh village? No, I wouldn't say it was a posh village. I experienced almost all of the things that you see village people, village life experience. Going to fetch water, building firewoods and cooking on it. So it wasn't posh. It wasn't better than an average village life. It was the same. Someone asked, was it safe for me to grow up where I grew up? It was very safe for me to grow up where I grew up. Lived there for almost 15 years of my life before I left. It was safe. And that's another thing about what you see on the media about Congo. Congo is a very big country. It might as well just be a continent on its own. Can you travel alone? What is the cost of traveling? I don't know. I wouldn't know. Maybe one day when I travel there, I will take note of the cost and let you guys know. But today I have no idea. In terms of traveling alone, no, you shouldn't travel alone to a country that you've never been to. Is it true that humanitarian workers smuggle minerals out of Congo? This is something that I've also heard about. I have no evidence to prove it, so I cannot say yes or no. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't have proof, so I cannot really confirm anything or deny anything. What did it teach me about life? What growing up there taught me about life is the fact that life is really the same everywhere. Maybe the standard of life is not the same everywhere, but life goes on everywhere. And just because someone is living a lifestyle that is different to yours doesn't necessarily mean that they are suffering. Even when you read reports about many African countries or about Congo in particular, and you hear that, okay, most of the population is living for under $1 a day, you just look at these figures and you're just like, people are suffering. But poverty is relative. It really is, because if you grew up where I grew up at, you didn't need to buy a lot of stuff. You cultivated things yourself. Like you planted corns, you planted cassava, everything. We have very fertile land. Everything that you plant will grow. There was also animal farming. Like when I was growing up, my granddad had a lot of goats and he assigned every one of his grandchildren with a goat to take care of. So I grew up owning a goat already. So if you wanted to eat a goat, you could kill a goat and eat it. If you wanted to eat chicken, you could kill a chicken and eat it. So we didn't need to buy a lot of stuff. Life was dependent on what we did for ourselves, basically. That's what it taught me about life. What did it teach me about education? in Congo. School was very routine. What the last year's people learn is this probably the same thing that this year's are going to learn. What this year's students are going to learn will probably be the same as what the next year's students are going to learn. I've noticed this in many other countries that I've traveled to, that school is very routine. But in Congo, it's routine in the sense that it didn't upgrade much, or it didn't change much. But on the other side as well, it also taught me the fact that education in many parts of Congo is also relatively advanced compared to education abroad. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but you would notice that students who studied in Congo, they know a lot more very early on than students who study abroad. I'll give you an example, okay? When I was in Congo, by the time you are in year 9, you can choose what option you are willing to study. You can choose if you want to study mathematics, you can choose if you want to study teaching, if you want to study political economy. You could choose to study anything by the time you are in year 9. So in that way, I feel like it is somehow advanced, but that is not the thing that I have noticed here. I think education here goes very slowly, very progressively. Maybe it allows students to master what they are learning more than just taking so much subjects. Because I remember being in high school in Congo, there was a lot of subjects. Like, you could take up to 12 subjects. You didn't have a choice. Like, up to 12 subjects you're learning from high school already. So I don't know if that's better or worse, but yeah, that's how I would explain the education system of where I grew up, and ultimately of Congo as well, I guess. What did it teach me about relationships? Relationships in Congo is very important, especially family is very important, but also friends, because relationships between friends are also very close back home. Because I grew up at a place where my grandparents were just maybe 1 kilometer or 2 away, it was beautiful because when I got angry, for example, I could run to my grandparents' place and sleep there and decide to stay there if I wanted to. I could go to my auntie's place without asking, without calling them or anything. You can go there, eat, cook, stay if you want to stay. But relationships back home, they are very close, you know, they're very close and personal. People genuinely cared for each other. What it taught me about how big Congo is, how big the country is. Growing up where I grew up, I really knew very little about any other part of Congo, apart from the surroundings of where I was. And thinking about that now, I'm just like, everything that we see, everything that you see even on the media, it's just a little bit about Congo. It's not even 1% of what Congo is. I would really go even further to say that. It's not even 1% of what Congo is. Congo is so much more than what you see. It really is that deep. Nobody ever knows Congo. You can never know Congo enough because it's way more than anybody could put in a video report. What did it teach me about nature? What I could notice is the fact that the knowledge that people have back there about the environment or about the nature, the natural world, is just better. It's a closer relationship. But it's unfortunate that right now, I actually, when it comes to nature, I feel dumb. The knowledge that my grandparents or my relatives have about nature and the connection that they have with nature, or that I used to have with nature, was so much closer, so much better, so much more knowledgeable than what I have right now. Back then, I was not afraid to get into a natural fish pond and catch fish. And for me, that relationship or that natural knowledge about the natural environment is so much better than learning about it in books. What music did I listen to? In my house, we had, my mom at least, she's a very spiritual woman, she prays a lot. She had this rule of nobody should play circular music or non-gospel music at our home. Most of the music we listened to were Congolese gospel music. The funny thing is we were not really in touch with a lot of other music. Once in a while I would hear music from other African countries, but I wouldn't know where it was from. That has also influenced the way that I connect with music of the rest of the world. Like, for example, I don't feel emotionally attached to any popular star. Like, for instance, I didn't know anything about Michael Jackson until I was around 16. So it has affected the person that I turn out to be. That's another thing that growing up in rural Congo left in me. But outside of my home, we also used to hear other music, you know, other circular Congolese music. And lastly, will I go back there? It's been more than 10 years since I left that place. Will I go back? Definitely. definitely. But if it's about going back to live there, I guess that is a bit of a different question now, because I'm older, so I have to plan my life a bit differently, because there are other factors to take into consideration. But I do think I'm gonna spend a lot of time in that place. Even when I have kids, if God blesses me with kids, I would love for them to experience that life as well, you know. I don't want them to go to Africa Nairobi, Africa Kinshasa, and Africa Lagos. Like, I want them to go to Congo village, Congo, rural Congo, for instance, because I feel like personally it taught me a lot of valuable lessons about life, and I would want my kids to learn about that. So I think I'm gonna spend a lot of time there. So that was all for today's video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe if you are new. Let me know in the comments, have you yourself ever been to a village before, or to a rural environment before, and what did it teach you as a human being, you know? Like, what are some of the life lessons that it taught you? I would be really open to see all of your views down in the comments. And also, if you have any other questions that you didn't have a chance to ask me, you can always put them in the comments as well. I'm always in the comments, by the way. I'm always answering your comments, so put them in the comments, and I will see you guys next time in the next videos. Bye.